Check, check, 1, 2, looking good. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. My name is Eric, and that is Chester right there. He's a good old boy. Chester getting a little old, man. We put a lot of miles on the trails in together, hundreds, thousands, I guess, probably. But yeah, man, it's hard watching a dog get old, isn't it? Man, it's rough. So, anyways, let's get into it. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about peptides. I want to talk about a research stack for inflammation, weight, and longevity that I think would be beneficial for a lot of people out there. It's not a personalized approach, but more of a research based framework. Peptides are not the answer if you haven't done the work, though, if you're not willing to do the work. You got to build the foundation. And this is going to be the most important thing I say in this entire video. It has nothing to do with peptides. Before you ever think about peptides, before you ever load a syringe, you need to have your house in order. And most people just don't. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying, there's a lot of people out there who are spending a lot of money on these compounds, on these peptides, and they're not getting the results that they're looking for. And some people are out there blaming the compounds when that's not really what's happening, most likely. And it's most likely it's because you don't have your house in order. So here's what needs to happen first: diet. Get it cleaned up. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. Good Lord knows I'm not. I love a couple beers at the end of the day. But if you're eating garbage consistently, you're inflamed at baseline. You're fighting an uphill battle before you even get started. If you clean up the processed food, the garbage seed oils, the sugar, you start eating real food, get rid of the NSAIDs. The NSAIDs, you guys are popping them like candy. It's really terrible for you. All right? The ibuprofen, the aspirins, no, stop it. Okay? Eat real food, prioritize protein. It's not complicated, but it needs to happen. Next, training. You gotta be moving. And I'm not talking about just walking around the block for a couple miles. No, no, no. Consistent resistance training. Move your body, but build muscle. Muscle. It's the most metabolically protective tissue you have. And if you're sitting around on the couch all day, drinking your latte, watching The View, man, you're screwing up. You're screwing up on multiple levels, not only physically, but mentally. You're watching The View. What's going on out here? Anyways, you got to work out, get moving, get off the couch, quit watching The View. Next, you need to get your lab work done. Now, this is one that a lot of people skip over, and I understand why. You don't like going to the doctor. It's a lot of work, but you need to do it. Get your blood pulled, know what your baseline is, at a minimum, testosterone, estradiol, thyroid panel, a full metabolic panel. You can test for some inflammatory markers like CRP, homocysteine. It's hard to optimize something that you're not measuring, guys. So, and if you're older and you haven't had a lab done in a while, you just need to do it. All right, it's not a bad thing to do. Okay, so along with those labs, the big thing that you need to get a hold of is hormones. If your testosterone is in the basement, fix that first. Not because testosterone is magic, but because everything downstream from your hormonal environment matters. How you recover, how much energy you have, how you build muscle, how you respond to training, how you feel. If your hormones are off, everything else is running at a disadvantage. For this, I would try to find a provider. I'm not a big fan of doctors, guys. You're going to learn. I hate them. Most of them are sellouts, little pieces. I'm not a big fan of doctors. But there are some doctors out there who are good with hormone replacement therapy, and you need to really get that dialed in. So now, once you have that done, you got a solid foundation. Now we're talking. Now you have something you can build on. Now these peptides can actually do what the research says they will do. Okay, so here's how I would build the stack on top of that foundation. If I could pick one thing, BPC 157, hands down, not even close. It's the most gangster peptide out there, period. Body protection compound. That's what BPC stands for. It's a 15 amino acid peptide, broad research profile, gut healing, tendon and ligament repair, inflammation. But the reason I put it number one is because of the gut angle. All right. If you fix the gut, then you've addressed a massive piece of downstream inflammation. All right. And future problems. A compromised gut lining, you know, that lets your digestive food and the bacterial byproducts right into your circulation. That drives inflammatory signaling throughout your whole body. BPC 157 research shows that it helps support the gut barrier and it accelerates your gut lining repair. So, beyond the gut, BPC 157 helps with joints, tendons, connective tissue. And if you're accumulating wear and you're over 40 years old, which you are, BPC 157 is going to be an amazing compound for you. One compound, a broad impact, start here. Now, if I were going to move on and expand the KLOW blend, KLOW, that is BPC, but it adds 3 more components to it. So you have BPC 157, GHK copper, TB500, and KPV all together, and they kind of fill in the lanes that the others don't. They just work so well and synergistically together. It's absolutely beautiful. So we've already talked about one of the components of BPC 157, but we add in TB500 to the stack. This helps with systemic connective tissue remodeling. The GHK copper peptide, this helps with collagen synthesis, antioxidant activity, anti-inflammatory effects at the gene expression level. As you get older, your copper peptide levels drop with age, and that decline tracks with declining repair capacity across multiple tissue types. And then we're going to round this stack off with KPV. That is a gut-focused tripeptide that stacks beautifully with BPC 157 when we're considering the GI inflammation side of things, your gut health. All right. So KLOW gives you gut repair, systemic tissue remodeling, a broader anti-inflammatory coverage, all in one protocol. For most people over the age of 40, this is a serious maintenance stack that will have lots of benefits. All right. It's not magic. You got to be consistent with it. Give it some time. You can't take it for 2 weeks and expect something. This is going to take a little bit of time. All right. So now that we have the inflammation somewhat under control with the KLOW stack, let's move it up to tier 3, the next level. Let's add in what I call the game changer, Retatrutide. It's absolutely amazing. You know, I want to be clear about something here. This is not just a weight loss compound. The research goes way further than that, and it's relevant to almost everyone. So many of you have probably heard about the GLP-1s. They're exploding. Oh, it started with Ozempic. All right, that was a single agonist, the GLP-1. Then we went to tirzepatide, which was a double agonist. A lot better than Ozempic. Ozempic is trash. If you have Ozempic, throw it in the trash. Retatrutide is the king. Tirzepatide is the double agonist, and it's a little bit better. Like, it's better, but it's just not even close to what Retatrutide is. Now, Retatrutide, that's the Cadillac, baby. That's the new one that's coming out. Probably be rolling out in 2027. Eli Lilly's going to be rolling it out, but you can get it now, gray market. You know what I mean? Retatrutide, that hits 3 receptors simultaneously: GLP-1, GIP, and the glucagon. No other compound in this class does that. And the research is reflecting it. We're talking about aggressive metabolic data, fat reduction, insulin sensitivity, liver health, and direct anti-inflammatory effects independent of weight loss. These effects are showing up even in people who are not overweight. And here's the thing that a lot of people are missing: that visceral fat. That's the fat that's around your organs, your liver, your heart, your kidneys. And it's one of the most pro-inflammatory tissues in your body. It's actively secreting inflammatory cytokines around the clock. So if you're carrying this extra weight, you're not just dealing with a body composition issue, you're running a low-grade inflammatory fire every single day. Retatrutide addresses this directly. But even if you're lean, insulin sensitivity declines with age regardless. The GLP-1 activation improves how your cells respond to glucose. So that gives you better energy, better metabolic flexibility, less inflammatory signaling from metabolic dysfunction. And there's also solid data on the liver health from the glucagon receptor angle. Modern life is hitting your liver whether you're overweight or not. So if you pair Retatrutide with KLOW, then you're going to be hitting inflammation from 2 completely different directions all at the same time. That's why this one is a game changer. So now we got inflammation being addressed from multiple angles with the KLOW stack and the Retatrutide. If you want to go to the deepest layer, the next level, this is where it gets a little interesting. MOTS-c and NAD+. Okay, MOTS-c is encoded in the mitochondrial DNA, which is somewhat unusual for a peptide. The research focuses on AMPK activation, your cellular energy sensor. They call this an exercise mimetic. Helps with insulin sensitivity, mitochondrial biogenesis, metabolic flexibility. It stacks beautifully with retatrutide, hitting metabolic optimization from multiple upstream points. And finally, NAD+. This is not necessarily a peptide, but it's a coenzyme, and it is what your mitochondria run on. Essential for over 500 enzymatic reactions, including the sirtuin pathways that regulate DNA repair and inflammation resolution. NAD plus levels drop. I think it's around 50% between the ages of 40 and 60 years old. And when you restore that substrate, it shows consistent effects on inflammatory markers and cellular resilience. So these two together, MOTS-c and NAD+, they work at the mitochondrial level. And that's the deepest layer of this aging and inflammation story. So before I go any further, I do want to touch on the safety because people are always asking, and it's a fair question. All right. Generally speaking, the compounds I covered in this stack have some of the cleaner research profiles in the space. BPC 157, extensively studied in animal models, no serious adverse effects documented in a very large body of research. Okay, TB500, KPV are very similar. GHK-Cu copper, decades of use in topical applications, and the injectable research mirrors that. A very clean profile. The NAD plus, the main thing you might see is a little bit of flushing, particularly if you're taking a intramuscular administration or if you're taking IV, right? Got to be careful with the IV, very careful if you're going to do something like that. But that's normal and temporary to get that flushing. Retatrutide, this one is a little bit different. The GLP class makes me nervous because people can abuse them and you can have some serious issues if you're taking really high doses and just not knowing what you're doing. So the GLP class compounds commonly cause some GI side effects early on. Most of the time it passes, a little bit of nausea, reduced appetite, sometimes GI discomfort. If you don't have any appetite, you're taking too much, okay? So the research is consistently showing that this is a very dose dependent thing. All right. So titrate slowly and you'll minimize the side effects. All right. Don't start at a high dose. You work your way up. All right. You don't need to go as high as you probably think that you're going to go. And so MOTS-c, when I think about the safety considerations for this one is much newer. All right. So the human data is a lot more limited and animal research is great. But if you're newer to this space or you lean on the cautionary side, maybe you can build a foundation with the earlier tiers before you get here. MOTS-c has been shown to cause some significant irritations and some adverse reactions at the injection site. Some people are getting hives. And when I think of something that gives people hives, that makes me a little bit concerned because there's probably going to be some people who could possibly have an anaphylactic reaction to MOTS-c. I don't think that's been the case yet, but I know there has been a couple people who have went to the hospital because of taking MOTS-c and it just didn't sit well with them. No one has died or anything like that, but it might be a good idea with this one in particular to have an EpiPen around. All right. That way you don't have to run to the neighbor, calling 911, hoping that your neighbor has an EpiPen and hoping that the ambulance will get to your house on time. All right. So anyways, listen, none of this is medical advice. These are research compounds. Know what you're working with. Do your homework. Get educated. All right. I'm just some guy on the internet. Don't just listen to me. In conclusion, first, do the work. Diet, training, labs, hormones. It's really not optional, guys. You have to do this. That's the foundation everything else sits on. Without that, you're just wasting your time and your money. Once you've got that dialed in, BPC 157, start here. Gut, tissue, inflammation. Broadest single compound research case there is, arguably. From there, I might go to the KLOW stack. Gives you systemic repair, connective tissue, broader anti-inflammatory coverage. Once we've got that inflammatory fire put out, we add in retatrutide, magnificent. Visceral fat reduction if you need it, metabolic resilience either way. The research case is solid regardless of whether you're obese or you're lean. Okay. And if you want to go a little bit deeper, we get to MOTS-c and NAD+ for the mitochondrial support. When built progressively on a real foundation, I believe the stack would have genuinely meaningful effects for the majority of people dealing with inflammation, metabolic dysfunction, and the wear that just comes with getting older. That's my honest read of the research. And one more thing, I want to mention some notables that I just didn't include. There's a lot of different peptides I could have included into this, but I'm just trying to be a little bit reserved. But there's some of the things that I really love: epitalin, thymosin alpha 1, LL37, and more. All of these have solid research profiles and legitimate use cases in this general area. But I built this stack for someone who's maybe never done this before, and the sequence matters. You don't just throw everything at someone on day one. Start low, BPC 157, then build up to the KLOW, then to the Retatrutide, and then to the mitochondrial layer. That's a logical progression that a new user can actually adapt to and build upon. The other stuff, we'll just get there. You're going to start learning about all these different peptides and you're going to get excited about them. Just take her easy, right? I've seen it happen for multiple people. They take one or two peptides. They think, that's going to be good. Next thing you know, they got 15 peptides in their fridge. All right. Take it easy out there, guys. You don't need a lot. So, look, I breezed over these compounds pretty quick. Each one of them deserves its own deep dive, and I plan to do that. If you want me to go deeper on any of these, please just drop it in a comment. Let me know. I'll try to build from the list that you guys actually want to see. Okay. And if you got any value out of this, show me some love. Like, subscribe, share it with somebody who might need to hear it. And I will see you on the next one. Stay strong, stay in a fight. I'm out.